Anthony Crane, Devin, Albertson. I'm going to call them our eight-man analyst of just many different hats they wear. Guys, thanks for coming on again this week, discussing, breaking down eight-man football. Before we get into it, I'll let each one of you kind of introduce yourselves on the platforms that you guys are, your Facebook Living, posting stories, everything you guys are doing.
Yeah, you can follow us on Twitter, Crane_Anthony. I give a lot of content to Devin, who shares it on the Mo 8-Man Twitter page and Facebook page, and so we kind of group all that stuff together. And you can also find some work of mine on Patreon. If you go to the top of my Twitter page, it'll have the link there, send you to the Patreon page.
Yep, and for me, you find me on Twitter at Devin Albertson, and then Facebook and Twitter at Mo 8-Man Football. Have all the content up there. I'll have the stats for week 1 and 2 probably posted there sometime this week once more coaches post their stats. So you can kind of see the leaderboard in Missouri 8-Man stats for the first 2 weeks. And we have standings, schedule, all that good stuff, all in all of Anthony's 8,000 articles he writes. So we get it all out there for you guys.
All right, so let's get into it. Let's look at this week's eight-man football poll, week 3. We'll go with the top 5. Actually, I'll just say all 10 because there's only 10. Number 1, Mountain City. 2, North Shelby. 3, Southwest Livingston. 4, Pattonsburg. 5, Stanberry. 6, Drexel. 7, North Andrew. 8, South Holt, Nottaway Holt. 9, Archie. And 10, Albany. That is the week 3 Missouri eight-man media poll. Guys, for you last week, and Devin, you said on Football Tonight that Platte Valley over Rockport may have been the surprise of the weekend, and because Rockport's been toward the top for the last several years when they came down to eight-man football. Platte Valley's been rebuilding for a few years. They have the co-op. That one probably was a surprise, but what else stood out to you guys that you've had a few days to reflect back on week 3?
Well, I'll start with Platte Valley since I was there. It was interesting. I get there. You find out their head coach isn't there. He's in quarantine. The quarterback has a concussion, and their number 2 running back is out. But then you get the kickoff, the onside kick, and Platte Valley's best player breaks his arm first play of the game. But you still had to be impressed with the way Platte Valley came out, especially with some running back that I didn't know anything about, and I had been in their practice. He had 2 touchdowns, 57 yards, another 40. Now, while Rockport was down a little bit, you had to be impressed with the way that Platte Valley both played defensively and to slow down Joey Herron and hold him to under 100 yards, and then to regroup after losing Carter Luke and to get that win.
Going along with that, go ahead, Devin.
Go ahead. Okay, just for that game, I was really impressed with Platte Valley. I thought they had a chance to win that before I realized their quarterback and the head coach, Rockport, another guy was out for them, and then before Carter Luke went out for Platte Valley. So many different factors changed in that game, but it was still a really good football game and good for Platte Valley. You said they've kind of a down program the last few years. To get a good win like that versus a quality conference opponent and kind of set them up going forward after losing Mountain City week 1. It's good for a young team like that to learn how to win. That was one thing I really saw with Platte Valley. For them going forward was huge for them.
And from a historical standpoint, Platte Valley used to be South Nottaway. They used to be PVC and everything. I knew them pretty well. Grew up 15 minutes from them, so that's why. But Anthony, when you look at this Platte Valley team, and I'm not saying they're going to be world beaters or anything like that. Just how improved do you think they are from just a year ago?
I think as a team overall, they're improved. You lose Dalton Luke, who is one of the the 3 years I've been doing this, one of the more impressive running backs you'll see. Maybe not statistically, but with the group he had around him, there wasn't a ton of talent. Now this year, I think overall as a team, they are much better. They have 27 players out, something like that. And now I think with the win Friday, this team goes from their 2 wins a year they've had the last few years to now 4 wins is probably the floor for them. I don't know if they're probably not going to beat East Atchison, South Holt, Nottaway Holt, but they should beat. Well, this Friday will be interesting. I think we'll see where Northwest Nottoway and Platte Valley are. That should be a good game as well. But yeah, I think this is maybe a 4-win team now compared to 2 wins the last couple of years.
Yeah, absolutely with them. And you said there with Riviera coming in, he had 174 yards and 3 scores there against Rockport. Gabe Notestein, who didn't play last year, is a bigger body for him, and he had 51 yards in the score for him as well in that game. So having those guys kind of back really helps them out a lot and kind of spreads the talent out across there. Because you saw with Dalton Lucas for years, he was decent, but they didn't have a line to block for him, so he was kind of just shed 3 or 4 guys in the backfield for him like line of scrimmage. This year, their backs have a little more room to run with their line. It's really helping the whole overall talent has risen there in Platte Valley.
Yeah, and really impressive for Gabe, who hadn't really practiced running back and was just kind of thrown into the fire Friday night. So they should be set in that backfield. And I think Trevor McQueen gives them some athleticism at quarterback. He's got a decent arm. They've got some skill position players that I think could help them as they continue to grow into those positions because they're all new. They don't return anyone in those skill positions from last year. So I think they'll continue to improve as the weeks go on.
Now, looking ahead at this week, we talked mainly about Platte Valley there, but we know Mound City's still the one in the media poll. North Shelby, Southwest Livingston. I mean, most of the top 10 is undefeated. It's only been 2 weeks, but 8 of the 10 undefeated. 2 top 10 games this week: Mound City hosting Albany, and then Pattonsburg and North Andrew. Besides those 2 games, or if it may just be those 2 games too for you guys, what are you guys looking at this weekend?
The game I'm going to will be the Pattonsburg hosting North Andrews. That's the game I'll be mainly focused on the Friday night, that I'll be watching the battle of the Smash Mouth North Andrew versus the Air Raid Pattonsburg. Always a fun matchup of clash of styles there. But if we're going to pick top 2 games of the top 10 matchups, the next best game I think is the Nottoway Hold East Atchison game. Both have lost to Livingston this year. Both struggled a lot with the Wildcats in their games. Both got wins in their other games. So I think those 2 teams can kind of battle for the 3rd place in the 275, and be really interesting to see how those games kind of manufacturing, how they kind of come out there a little bit between those 2 schools, and kind of see where they're gauging themselves at in the conference.
Yeah, and we can point to the 2 offenses in Pattonsburg and North Andrew. There's some things defensively these 2 teams have done. North Andrew, we're kind of used to them being strong defensively. What impressed me so far is they have 27 tackles for loss in 2 games. Now only 3 sacks, but talking to Coach Dwayne Williams before the season, while they led the state in sacks last year, they gave up a lot of big plays. And so he said they wanted to back off that a little bit to be better overall defense. Maybe that's what we're seeing there. But still, 27 in 2 games is impressive. And for Pattonsburg, their issue has always been defense. And I think this year we're seeing an improved defense. Cameron Jones will help, every aspect of football. But they forced 10 turnovers in 2 games. Now, they haven't played the best opponents so far. This will be their toughest test of the season, and they'll do it without Brett Emig at wide receiver. But still, for North Andrew, it is going to be a test to stop Cameron Jones. And then they've gotten some production out of sophomore Brody Langford. He's got 11 catches and 3 touchdowns in 2 games. So it'd be interesting to see how this game goes. I think it'd be a good game. Both coaches are great. The kids, there's a lot of talent there. And then a game that Devin has talked about a lot this week is Albany and Mountain City. It'd be a good test for both teams to see where they're at. I wasn't high on Albany coming into the season. They put up a good game against Stanberry last week, so I'll be interested to see how that game goes. For Mountain City, this will be their first test of the season, and I think we'll get a better idea of where they're at this year.
Yeah, Mountain City, they're a very talented team. They got Tony Osborne playing quarterback this year. That moved Landon Papa to more of a running back / receiver kind of role for him a little bit. They're doing a little bit different than him, want to get him the ball a little bit more in space instead of being under center. So they're trying to use their athletes they have over there in kind of their best way. And I'm really interested to see how Albany kind of matches up with them. I watched their game on Facebook Live versus Stanberry, and Albany has some good size, has some guys out there. Truman Reynolds on defense played really well. Then on offense, Trice quarterback. with Ethan Mercer at running back and Caden Hutchinson at receiver and safety really stood out to me as some guys who definitely popped a little bit on the screen there for Albany. So we'll see if Albany can hang with Mountain City. Maybe the GRC is pretty close. If not, maybe Mountain City is just that much more talented than everybody else. We're not sure yet because Mountain City's beaten Platte Valley and Stewartsville the first 2 weeks, kind of towards the bottom of the 275 there for the first couple of games for them. But we'll know a lot about Mountain City this week with Albany, and then next week when they go to Ludlow to play Southwest Livingston. So next 2 weeks are huge for Mountain City.
Yeah. My only thing with I haven't seen Stanbury yet this year. I don't know how good they are defensively, but Albany had their issues. Mercer had 109 yards, but he came on 25 carries. Trice Floyd was basically shut down, at least on the ground. So I'll be interested to see how they improve offensively. And, for them, it was their first week, so it may just be one of those things that takes a little bit of time. But that, like you said, Truman was impressive. He had 15 tackles and a sack in one game, and they'll need that kind of performance out of him this week if they want to hang with Mountain City or beat Mountain City.
Get you out of here on this one,
You
guys.
off that Stanbury point you made and watching them on.
Go ahead, Devin. No, you're fine. You're fine.
Just real quick on Stanbury. Up front with Stanbury, Austin Colvin, he's a big – I think he's 6'4", 230, and every bit of it. He's a huge guy up front. Colin Sager, no linebacker. As of right now, before I put those stats in, he was leading the state with 30 tackles, and they're all right there at the line of scrimmage. Stanbury's big and physical up front. I'm kind of curious how they handle with teams with more speed on the outside, with, say, a Pattonsburg or teams like that. But if they're going to play in a phone booth, they're going to be really good in those type of games. And I'll see how they match up this week with King City with Parker Muff, right now leading the state with over 500 yards through the first 2 weeks, if they can kind of slow him down as well. So Stanbury with a big test with Parker Muff coming into town. We'll see how the run defense matches up against Muff this week. So Stanbury did look impressive last week, though.
Get you guys out of here on this one. One more time, where are you guys going to be at this Friday?
I will be at Pattonsburg for number 7 North Andrew, number 4 Pattonsburg. I get to see Coach Williams, Coach Cavan again. They're always good to me, so should be fun. We'll have the halftime Facebook Live on No 8 Man Football and the post game as well with the winning coach and hopefully the player of the game as well.
Yeah, I'll be at the Platte Valley Northwest Nottoway game. Should be interesting to see if Platte Valley can continue that momentum. They had this last year where they beat DeKalb. They went up against the Stewartsville team that I felt they should have beat, and they didn't. So we'll see if this year they can continue with the momentum from a win and get a win against the Muskets.
Anthony Crane, Devin Albertson, thanks for coming on.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chris.